this is Governor Bobber. Like, good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening, everyone. The doctors are back. Our road warrior, Dr. Thornton, is back from his many travels around here and there and everywhere. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thank you.
Busy week this week. Did you fill up your gas tank yesterday, Jeff, by the way?
I did not get a chance to, but it's already like half full, so it's fine. But I did hear that the gas tax went up, so
yeah, it went up 6 cents, and it's because of people like this guy. He was in the legislature. He voted with Martin O'Malley to index the price of gas with inflation. Brilliant move there. Brilliant.
So that increase, Dwight, is a two-pronged increase. I didn't realize because I couldn't understand why it was going up so much this time around and why it's gone up so much in the last 10 years. But they have part of it is the rate of inflation, and then there's another thing that has to do with like the sales tax, I guess, on the wholesale price of gasoline. So it was a 19% increase in the gas tax today. I mean, that's a huge number at this point.
Yeah, 19 cents, and that
19%.
19%, did you say, or 19 cents?
19% increase, yeah.
Yeah. And let's put that in perspective, I know, like, the Democrats, like Tom Hucker and Gabe Albornoz, they'll all say things, well, it's only 6 cents, And I'm sorry, when the price of gas is already like around $4.99, $4.95, 6 cents is a big deal. And they don't understand, the Democrats always, they care about the poor people, the plight of the poor people, What about the poor children who aren't getting any lunches all summer long because school's out? Or, they'll have nothing to eat and stuff like that. With people like the Democrats, like Tom Hucker and Gabe Albornoz, who are lockstep support of tax hikes, gas tax hikes and so on. You're taking food out of the mouths of those children that you worry about because 6 cents does add up real fast, And it's
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, it'd be one thing if that money was put into a pool, and then the people that actually needed assistance for gas, the people that were, that are really, struggling with gas. I mean, obviously everyone is struggling, but people that actually, have a problem going to work because they are, minimum wage, single moms, whatever. If that was going to them, then I would have less of an issue. But the issue I have is the fact that all this money we collect, it just goes into a slush fund, and it never really gets used for the kind of programs that you'd expect.
I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be spent for transportation projects, and I think there was a movement at some point to use it for new school construction as well, but it's not being spent there. It's being spent on everything but that, frankly, at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, transportation trust funds, whether or not they're state or federal, I mean, they've always been a key, piggy bank for places for the politicians to raid, right? So, and the 6 cents is not, it's not really going to break the bank of a lot of people. But as you said, Dwight, it does add up. And when they're already experiencing inflation at 40-year highs, something needs to be done here. I mean, they've been arguing over whether or not they should suspend it or do a holiday or whatever. And that's all politics. Biden wants to do, suspend the federal gas tax. Those are drops in the bucket. I mean, be Reagan-esque. Go out there, do something good for the people, and give them a tax cut. Cut their property taxes, cut their income tax, or something like that. That'll help them.
Yes.
The gas tax, it affects people really disproportionately anyway. And I felt not just bad for the people on the lower end of the economic scale, but I've also felt terrible for those that run businesses that have fleets of cars and trucks that need to use diesel because they've been slammed.
Oh, it's still over $6 now. It's like $6.36 is what I saw this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's
And
the
the
thing,
prices
like,
have
you
been
know,
going down a little bit, but it's still killing people.
yeah, I mean, because
what gas being $4 plus is killing people. Frankly, it's ridiculous. $4 for gas.
But and we know it's all Putin's fault, right? Because it had not the
Yes,
price hadn't
and
already gone up by a large margin before Russia invaded Ukraine. That whatever the price was, Biden administration has completely ignored it and focused only on, oh, well, we've got this war, so that's what spiked the price of oil. I mean, yes, the price of oil did spike after, with the war, but it was already up significantly before the war.
yeah, well, the price of oil also spiked during the Gulf War too. The first days of Desert Storm, it did spike, but then it came down real fast because we had a president that showed leadership and did stuff. This guy.
It's coming down now, not because of the president. It's coming down. Well, maybe it is because of the president in the sense is that now it's recession
People are
fears.
driving less.
Yeah, recession fears are now driving it. Demand. This is an interesting period of time where people are hitting the roads. I mean, and what? I'll be on the road in about 3 or 4 weeks. To go down out in Indiana, and I am just not looking forward to paying for gas on this trip.
Yeah, I tell you, Sheets has got a $3.99 a gallon deal for this weekend, but I tell you, there isn't a single Sheets in Montgomery County. I was talking to one of my Democrat neighbors, and I go, hey, don't forget to fill up your gas tank. I go, what? I go, because Martin O'Malley and Tom Hucker, basically Hucker voted for a bill that O'Malley signed, which
Yeah,
indexed gas tax with inflation, and it's going to go up 6 cents, on average.
yeah. I mean,
And they don't seem to get, and he goes, really? He goes, and then he told me he's got my vote, so which is great.
The thing is too is that this is emblematic of what happens with these politicians, and I'm going to blame both sides of the aisle in a general sense for this. Is that they pass these laws, right? And in this case, in Maryland, it was the General Assembly and Mountain O'Malley have signed off on it. They passed something for when it really starts to sting. They're not there anymore. How many of the legislators are still there that were part of that? O'Malley's long gone. So, politicians have been, they're very good at kicking the can down the road, thinking like, yeah, we can do this, because really, in reality, I probably won't be there when the biggest part of this pain point will increase. So I'm okay. Right.
well, and the big thing too, to your point, Don, was like a lot of politicians trade in futures. They expect that the economy will go, up or whatever, and so they bank on what they think, the economy will do some years down the road, and then start spending the money like they're already making it. So, I mean, it's just crazy. But you're right. I mean, politicians put these policies into effect, and by the time they actually, come to fruition, and people are start suffering, then they're long gone, and so we have no recourse at that point. So, I don't know. And I was going to say too, with your point about, all the industry that, the people that have fleets that are affected by the gas tax, people that drive diesel and stuff, we've talked about it before, but the whole transportation industry, that's kind of like the backbone of like everything gets supplied via shipping. So, everything increases in price. So even if we said, hey, we're going to, give a tax rebate to all these shippers and say we're going to, perhaps collect more money on gas tax, whatever. I mean, but actually reduce the cost for people that are in fleets and other industries that are like, you could say like essential services. At least that would potentially reduce the cost of all goods, because right now, part of the cost of the goods is the transportation. So this increase in gas tax is not just, it's like you said, it's two-pronged, but it's actually more than that, because it not just affects us in our own pocketbooks, when we fill up, it also affects us when we buy, groceries or get things shipped to us or whatever. It's all along those avenues.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too. This is one of the things that we've all seen, right? It's just that the cost of transportation, is a big part of shipping the goods around the country. Price of gas, plus with increases in the gas tax, that goes up these people are not going to be able to absorb those continual increases. They will pass it on to the consumer. So that's
Yep.
we then wind up with leading to these 8% inflation rates, or at least the 8% that the government tells us it is. Though when I go to the store, it seems to be a heck of a lot higher than that. I was just checking. I mean, I did a Google search for gas taxes, and so I don't know if they're not fully reflecting like Maryland's tax in here, but so it had the 5 highest gas taxes were Pennsylvania at 58.6, California at 53.3, Washington 52 cents really. New Jersey was 41 and New York was 40.45.
We just beat New Jersey.
If New Jersey and New York haven't adjusted their prices, this would make Maryland the 4th highest gas tax in the country.
We beat New Jersey.
Yeah, we beat New Jersey and New York. Come on.
Take that, New Jersey. Take that, New York. Our gas tax is higher. And
what a great badge of honor. Jeez.
I know. It's like, well, with the Democrats, they have to be number one in everything. We have to be the worst. Number one in all the bad things.
Well, if that's not solidifying, Maryland as a blue state, geez.
Yeah. And let me tell you, if basically in our Republican primary, if Dan Cox wins and we lose, something, we're going to be number one in the gas tax in the country because Governor fill in the name wacko Democrat is going to raise the gas tax. They're going to raise our income taxes, and it's going to make Maryland totally unlivable. Who's going to be living in Maryland? The uber rich and those who can't afford to move out of Maryland. Many of us will move out of Maryland and go to Florida or Arizona or Texas.
I realize that we're still early in the game, and we've got to go through this primary here coming up. And
19 days away.
But the idea that Dan Cox is even competitive just blows my mind. I loved when I filled in. I was one of Martha's guests at the Schultz thing over at Alex's place. Was it only a week ago or so? And I don't go out to too many of these events. I love Mike Higgs. He introduces her and talks about the opponent. So that nutcase Dan Cox.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, go for it, Mike, because it's just beyond me that how Cox is attracted to the sport he has, because Mike's right. The guy's a nutcase. I mean, it's like the Republicans vote him, and make him the nominee. We're sunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like I cannot believe people are seriously, and the other person people are consider, basically Mike Peruka. Really, Mike Peruka. We've got such a quality candidate for Attorney General in Jim Shalek, and people are actually considering voting for Mike Peruka. Mike Peruka, who he's an attorney, he is, I don't think he's got he's a collections attorney. Okay, at the end of the day, he's one step above an ambulance chaser. Mike Peruka would not make a good attorney general, in my opinion. Jim Shalek is perfect for the job. This is the first time we've had 3 quality statewide candidates. We've got that in Kelly Schultz. We've got that with Jim Shalek for attorney general, and Barry Glassman was running for comptroller. Phenomenal candidates, and really, I cannot believe. I don't understand this effect, that this whole enamoration with Dan Cox, because I've seen this movie before. I'm very confident Kelly's going to win. There's no way Dan Cox wins, frankly. But it's like we've seen this movie before. It was called Brian Murphy in 2010. I believe The Great Hope was Charles Lawler 8 years ago, and we saw how that movie ended. And I think this will end the same way as the dreams of Governor Lawler or Governor Murphy, frankly.
Yeah, I want Dan Cox to lose and then go away. Though I do fear that he's so Trumpian that he'll act like Trump when he loses.
Limited. If he loses, if it's a close race, I really hope Kelly just blows him out. If it's a close race, they're going to say there was voter fraud. Also, I don't think he goes away. I think he stays around.
Yeah, well, that's what
He
I'm
was
saying. I
there.
think he. I think he.
He may run
Unlike
for.
Lawler and Murphy, who basically we haven't heard from, you know,
Yeah.
I think Cox is going to
Well,
continue.
Lawler moved to Georgia.
So, it's
Yeah.
just it's unfortunate. I mean, and I love Jim Shalik. I wish Jim was more dynamic. But then again, I don't know. Maybe attorney general candidates don't need to really be that dynamic.
I mean, look who we have right now, Brian Frosch.
Yeah, right. I mean, people probably don't pay as much attention to him. I mean, but it's
I
I'm
mean, Doug Gansler was our most animated AG we've had. Mickey Steinberg was not that. And not Mickey Steinberg. Yeah, Joe Curran is what I'm thinking. Not Mickey Steinberg. Joe Curran, was not that dynamic. And I mean, like I said, Doug Gansler, or as we like to call him, Speed Racer, was the most animated AG we've had in recent history. And I feel really bad. I don't even remember who was the AG when Governor Agnew was governor in Maryland. I could probably look it up right now, but yeah.
You're going way back again. Here we go. We got the Spiro thing in here.
Oh, you'll be really proud. The other night with Jim Shalik's fundraiser, Jim let all the candidates talk, and I talk, and I mentioned, I go, some of my, I talk on foreign policy because Jim was talking on foreign policy. I mentioned about Spiro, not Spiro, Richard Nixon. He was right on America, on his America First foreign policy, standing up to the communists, and I go, and I know there's a lot of hate out there for Vice President Agnew, Governor Agnew, but every time I go over the Bay Bridge, I do thank Governor Agnew because he built the second span. That also got him in a little bit of trouble building the second span, but can you imagine going to Ocean City with just one span right now? I mean, the Democrats opposed that second span.
Yeah, I mean, look how long. We talked about this before too. Look how long it took to build the ICC, and it took a Republican governor to actually make it happen.
But the beltways were all started under Republican governors. Both beltways, BWI Airport renovation. That was another one that was. Is moved from Martin State Air Park, which used to be the old Friendship Airport, and because BWI originally was before it became Thurgood Marshall, it was and before it became BWI, it was Friendship Airport. And
right, bringing back memories, history.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad's firm did the engineering work of the Friendship Airport first renovations, and they also did the second renovations they did there, which is phenomenal in its own right. But I mean,
all right. So answer this question then, just because I don't know. Why was it named Friendship? Do you know?
I have no idea. I think it was because Maryland back then, we were a friendly state. Maybe that's why come to Maryland, make a friend.
Yeah.
Before, kind of like
it sounded nice. Why not? Friendship Airport sounds like a nice thing to do. I have to look that up and see what the origins are.
Yeah. Because it used to be out in Essex. The old Friendship Airport used to be out in Essex, but then it was moved to BWI, where BWI is when they built that airport, and that became Friendship Airport. I don't know if you've ever been to Martin State Air Park. That is a small airport. Not that small, but I mean, A-10s fly out of there and stuff like that. But it was basically around in the 1950s, Harry Truman flew into Friendship Airport, back in the day, So, I mean, Friendship, I don't see anything about that. I'm sure one of our brilliant viewers will know where it got the name Friendship. I think it's just to be friendly, I don't know. Yeah, maybe there was some, I have no idea really. But
I thought I'd ask the question just in case anybody actually happened to know why it was that way.
Yeah. And we've got one of the and it's actually one of the best airports to fly in or out of, by the way, BWI. I love that place. But I do have one complaint with BWI. There's a pizza place inside behind the security gates. I can't go there unless I'm flying in or out. And when I'm flying in or out, it's like I'm rushing to go to where I'm going, or I'm rushing to get back home. I don't get to stop in and dine in there. If you remember Reagan Airport
Or
before 9/11,
show up to the airport earlier. I mean, when
yeah, or stay late, as
stay
the old
later.
slogan about going to Ocean City, go early and stay late. But yeah, I might actually do that the next time I fly, because I gotta go. I'm headed to Huntsville soon for a short day trip. And that's gonna be funny. It's like I'm flying down and flying back the same day. That's gonna be an interesting flight. But so, anyways, there's other things that have happened. Putin's little war just has not been going the way he planned it.
Yeah.
Bombing shopping malls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw that story. I mean, it was just, I mean, even I was watching it at the gym on on CNN, and they're reporting, and even for CNN, as they have the camera footage of the bombed out mall, you can see like racks of clothing, from part of the, and yet there's Russia saying, this was not a mall. This was a weapons factory. That's why we targeted. We don't target civilian, targets at all. But this has been disproven time and time again. I mean, he has spent, and we're up to what, 128 days.
Yeah.
This is not the first time that Putin has bombed a civilian target.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the guy's. He's not just targeting military targets. He's going after this innocent civilians as well on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad. We need to give them the weapons they need. It is what's even more. I don't know. It's kind of strange that we've got certain people in our party that are going around saying things like, "These guys aren't our friends. The Ukrainians hate us. We don't need to be helping them." But this is a good way to win friends, Father. When you help people out in a war, they seem to be indebted to you for a while.
Look, now you've got, what is it, Finland and Sweden about to become, they'll become NATO members.
Yes,
and now
awesome.
Russia wasn't very happy. Putin wasn't very happy when it first came out that they were going to do that, right? And now he comes out and he says, "This doesn't bother us," It was like,
so why does Ukraine bother you?
Liar.
Yeah. So why did Ukraine bother you when they wanted to join NATO? Frankly. And I think we should I think we should let Ukraine into NATO. Frankly, the hell with what the Ruskies have to say. And what's funny is that all kind of rolls into the January 6th hearings a little bit. Here we have so many crises. You got the foreign policy. Is a mess. Domestic policy is a mess. We have empty store shelves. Gas is $5. And what is the Democrats want to focus on? January 6th? People, Stephen Colbert's people did the exact same thing, did an unauthorized tour of the Capitol, and then you have folks like Michael Beschloff. He's a historian, I think.
Right.
I think it was either on CNN where he goes, "History will remember the name Cassidy Hutchinson." I don't think so. And wasn't it proven she lied?
Well, I mean, it's just that her story is a little shaky. I mean, there is a dispute with the Secret Service as to whether or not, what she said was. CNN says that they have a couple of they have a source that says they could kind of corroborate what she said, but there were other reports, that came out after she had made those statements that said no, that didn't happen. I think Trump's behavior. Who the heck knows? I mean, he's kind of erratic in a lot of ways, anyway. I don't really condone a lot of his behavior during the time he was president. But it just, I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to picture him like lunging from the back seat of an SUV or whatever, trying to grab a steering wheel and stuff like that. I mean, even for Trump, that seems a little bit too far fetched. Plus, just the logistics of that just seem to be a little bit kind of out of whack to do that. So, yeah, she's young. She's 26 years old. She was an aide to Mark Meadows. So when she was about 23. This looks like more of somewhat a chance to make a name for yourself. We've seen plenty of former administration officials, make a decision and line up and decide that they're going to criticize Trump or berate Trump. But this whole January 6th commission, who are the Republicans? Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. They wouldn't allow Jim Jordan to be on there. There's no cross-examination. So the thing that gets me about this is that all these people testify, and it's almost like the media reflexively, when they have these things, that go, oh, the bombshell testimony from person X, bombshell testimony from person Y,
But what about the bombshell revelations?
Testimony.
Yeah, we've had some bombshell revelations this week. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. There's a voicemail where they talked about his business. And Joe Biden lied about saying, "Oh, we never talk about business." What was that voicemail? We've got all this evidence, but nobody other than Fox News seems to talk about Hunter Biden and his laptop. Nobody wants to talk about that. They're too asphyxiated on January 6th. And they're, as the great Chris Plant once said, January 6th is the 4th of July for Democrats. It'll become a federal holiday at some point.
Well, it's just. Here we are. I mean, they're talking about something that happened on inauguration, just after the inauguration, right? Or I mean, just after the vote was, after the vote part, just before the inauguration, a couple of weeks beforehand, trying to change the election results and everything like this. So that's a year and a half ago, right? I mean, and we're still doing it. The Democrats, why they're doing this, is, really just shows that anything they can do to try to shift the narrative away from Joe Biden and his performance and what the administration has done, they think this is a good thing. They're very delusional in thinking that also whatever they come up with can help change people's minds in November for the midterms. But poll after poll after poll, when voters are polled, what do they want to talk about? They want to know about this inflation problem. They want to know about gas prices, abortions down the list, things like that. So economics, their pocketbook is definitely front and center. And keep bringing up Donald Trump. I mean, if Donald Trump would just ignore these people and just let them go ahead and talk, just don't comment on them, just let them go ahead. But it kind of then loses the energy. To me, every time that Donald Trump opens his mouth and makes a comment to try to dispute what happened, only extends the story and gives the Democrats more air, right? So suffocate them. Don't give them that air, and just let the whole thing collapse on its own by the fact that it's not a bipartisan committee by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to make their accusations. They're in power. That's what elections, give you power. You have consequences. But it would fizzle out on his own if Trump would just actually ignore this thing and just let it go away.
I agree. And the other point, this whole thing is these Democrats, let me tell you, these Democrats, if they could, they would retry Iran-Contra. They would retry Watergate. They would retry Teapot Dome. Because they are grasping now. Look at it. They know. I mean, I did my run when I did my run yesterday. These two Democrats. I wish I was not running so I could hear what they were talking. And one of them mentioned how we're really going to have to eat this election. I mean, Democrats privately know they're going to get there. They're going to get. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of seats this time around. I mean, Texas. They lost that longtime Democrat stronghold seat, it makes it very vulnerable for people. I mean, in Maryland, the Democrats have decided to protect David Trone, Mr. Total Wine and More, who, by the way, I believe Total Wine and More is also represented by Mike Peruka's law firm.
The Democrats know they're losing the House. There's just with
I think they lose they're losing the Senate too.
There's no way they can do it. The Senate's a little, it's really hard to tell that those
Well,
there's I think keeping Pennsylvania going to be tough. Wisconsin, yeah, probably they do that. North Carolina, I'm not worried about that. Georgia, I don't know if Warnock's not a great candidate, but he does have the power of the incumbency, and I'm not sure that Herschel Walker attracts enough attention to flip that back, but I hope he does, because they're gonna need Georgia to flip back to offset the potential loss in Pennsylvania. So I think Nevada is very vulnerable. I Arizona's
Nevada and New Hampshire are my
Arizona
two
are not
pickups. I
organized
thought.
enough to beat Kelly at this point. So
Well,
it's going to be a tough fight.
I think I've got New Hampshire, Nevada flipping our way. I even have Arizona flipping our way because I think I think it's got to be the perfect storm. I mean, my friends in Arizona tell me it's $6 gas there. You're gonna blame somebody. You may as well blame your Senator Mark Kelly.
Yeah, it's just that'd be fine. I mean, I think if the Republicans had a really good, strong candidate, they'd win that hands down. And I mean, that's where they missed Governor Ducey declining to run, because Ducey, I think, would easily beat Kelly. The problem is that they don't have a real strong candidate for Senate. There's a lot they're really kind of infighting and all this kind of stuff. And Kelly's got a huge war chest. So Kelly has the advantage, even though he's not a great candidate. He's got a war chest, he's got the incumbency, and the Republicans are kind of a mess.
I really think J.D. Hayworth could have also brought that seat back. And I know Bob can say J.D. Hayworth is a creature from the past, but we've had a lot of people from like Jim Talent left Congress and he came back and won a Senate seat in Missouri for one term.
Yeah, and I think sometimes in that case it depends upon how many bridges you burned. I don't know. I think that with Hayworth he may have just burned one too many bridges to try to actually kind of run for that, but you never know. I mean, voters are fickle. Arizona was a lot more Republican when Hayworth was in office than it is now. It's all these
It's the land of Barry Goldwater.
We've had that influx of Californians and people from Washington State looking for cheaper real estate, then driving up the price of real estate in Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Idaho. Starting to slowly change the complexion of things there. So you have to watch out for that too.
Yeah, and we've got I'm probably more optimistic than most. I think those are three pickups we make.
Well, I think the Republicans could go +1 or +2 potentially, but they could also be in a dead heat and just stick at 50, or they could lose a seat. I'd be okay. I mean, considering how tough the races are, if we still had a 50-50 Senate, and we have a Republican House, Biden's not going to be getting anything done anyway at that point in time. They're stuck. And Manchin and Sinema, they don't like a lot of these Biden programs to begin with. So and they represent constituencies that don't like the Biden agenda. So it kind of gives the Republicans a possible couple of votes if they need them in certain cases. But anytime DC is deadlocked, and they have the gridlock with the House and the Senate, they can't do any real damage that way. So it's good for all of us. They're not, they have a hard time spending our money and passing terrible laws this way. So I can live with that.
I mean, but then you have Joe Biden, who basically, good news is he wants to change. He is now talking again about. I mean, this is something we could probably play. If the Democrats win, the filibuster is going to be taken away. They're going to pack the Supreme Court because he's back to packing the courts. Because of Roe v. Wade, and they actually took a lot of losses. The left, everything from concealed carry guns to EPA had a big hit.
I will say that this was, for conservatives, this was one of the best years we've had on the Supreme Court.
I know, Now all we have to do is get Obamacare back in there so we can have that ruled unconstitutional.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean,
I think that ship sailed.
I think, yeah, I think exactly that ship has sailed. Republicans did some dismantling of things around the peripheral, so periphery. So they, I think, Obamacare is not the same beast it was when it was originally passed.
Yeah.
So it's been part of it's been part of our law here for what was it 2008. So
Yeah.
it's hard to revisit something that's already been in there. It was kind of like when the Republicans talked about trying to dismantle, ADA after it was passed. It's like after a few years, you can't take those things away.
Nope.
The politicians aren't going to vote for that, and the people aren't going to stand for that.
Imagine if we were taking away Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
If we were going to cut Social Security, and it's like become the third rail of politics. Hey Jeff, you've been quiet. Any thoughts on the stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how to read the Senate and Democratic races. I mean, in my social media, I tend to hang out with more liberals in my social media feeds, like on Twitter and such. So I would say that there is certainly a lot of backlash against
a lot of anger.
Well, it's not just anger; they're really trying to. I guess it goes down to two camps. There's one camp that really wants to galvanize the left and get people out to get a change in Congress so that they can actually pass some legislation, which I don't know if it's going to happen or not. And then the other half, it's a portion of it at least, that basically are just sick of politicians in general and kind of blame the Democrats that, they had the chance to do something about this, that Obama had the chance to pass, women's rights legislation. It was on his campaign pledge. It was something that he said he was going to get done in the first 100 days. And then he basically said, well, it's not a priority for me anymore. And so you got a lot of Democrats really just upset at the Democratic Party because they feel betrayed because of, they feel let down, that there could have been some protections in place that just never got enacted. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. I think, and I've said this before, I am hesitant to applaud too loudly on some of these things because, while I do, personally believe in the sanctity of life, I'm also careful not to try to legislate too much in the sense of like people have different beliefs and people have different issues. And when you get too hard on the one side, you start really.
Jeff, we're not, here's the thing. Let's bring everyone into reality. Abortion has not been banned. The issue has gone to the states, states.
But that's kind of that's a bit of.
There's no law prohibiting people from leaving the state to go get an abortion, and we've got many corporations that are going to be paying for women who want to go get abortions.
So let me just stop you right there, because I mean, I that's what everyone says. They said it's now a state issue, and that's technically true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that's a good thing. I mean, we could talk about slavery was a state issue, The southern states said that slavery was okay. The northern states said it was not. That's what caused the Civil War. I mean,
but slavery is a little different than abortion, frankly. We are federalists. We're form of government. The states make up the country. Abortion should be relied. I mean, let me tell you, slavery was It was an abomination. The Democrats loved slavery.
It depends who you ask, though.
They were all for slavery. Every Democrat supported slavery. It was a Democrat actor that murdered President Lincoln. And you've got the Democrats with the gall of setting up calling something called the Lincoln Project. They should call it the John Wilkes Booth Project or the Lester Maddox Project, one of their bigoted heroes that they love so much. The Republican Party has been, on the right side of history for every issue out there. We have not been on the wrong side. We were on the right side in the Cold War. We were on the right side in the War on Terror. We were on the right side during slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights. We've been on the right side. The Democrats had to be brought kicking and screaming to the table for a lot of these things. I
would agree with you, except that I think that, with the advent of the moral majority, and that I think the Republicans have gone a little bit too far right in a lot of policies where we've kind of adopted. I'm all about conservatism, but it's different between being conservative and being religious. So I am all about freedom of religion. I'm all about, I don't have problems praying, those kind of things. But when you start saying that, part of our policy and as a Republican is now going towards this religious portion of it, that's where that's not a federal stance. That is more like
No,
we're
but
still
here's the thing.
into.
The issue should be decided in the states. It should go to the states. States that are overwhelmingly pro-abortion, they can have abortion legal, safe, often as possible as they'd like. States like Mississippi abortions will be illegal. You can drive not too far to a blue state and get your abortion, if you want. And here's the thing.
My point is not to say whether abortion is right or wrong. My point is that the people that believe that abortion is a fundamental right, that's what they're fighting for. They believe it's not just a right or wrong thing. They believe, like slavery, like it is a fundamental right for women to have choice. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to debate whether that's true or not. I'm saying that is their argument.
But here's the thing, Jeff. Slavery, right? God created man equal. That's why we were against slavery, because that was and that was religious. There were
but then you could say that we weren't created equal, because people say that slaveries were descendant of Cain, and Cain was marked. So you've had people actually use religious context.
Democrats.
Slaves. Yeah. I'm just saying you can use a religious argument to say that slavery was justified because slavery was talked about in the Bible. It's even talked about how to treat slaves in the Bible. So you can't say that there's a religious argument against slavery, because there isn't one. But anyway, my point is just that again, I understand the Republicans are saying their stance. I'm just trying to relate the fact that Democrats, the reason that they're fighting this and they're upset about it is because they feel it's a fundamental right.
Well, actually, let me give you the reality on that one, Jeff. The Democrats are just fighting because they want anything. And I mean, if a UFO landed on the lawn of the White House, they'd want to focus on that, because that would take attention away from the failing economy of Joe Biden and his 38% approval numbers. This is all a distraction. The next thing we know, what is it? Or is Joe Biden going to go to war to detract, basically to divert attention from his failing economy? Oh, that's right. That's what they said about George H.W. Bush when he liberated the Republic of the Kingdom of Kuwait. He said, "Oh, this just distracts people from the faltering economy." Hey, Joe, are you doing this? Are you planning to invade some country or something like that? Are we going to invade Cuba or Venezuela or
Well, I understand there's rhetoric on both sides. What I was trying to relate to is with the common person, the common Democrat, not the person who is all up arms about everything, but the common person who leans Democratic, who is concerned about these issues. This is why they're concerned about it. I'm not trying to say that there aren't extremes on both sides. There obviously are. I'm just trying to relate that, again, for what seems to be in the circle of friends that I'm aware of, this is an issue because they feel it's a fundamental rights issue. They don't. Obviously, everyone's upset about gas tax and everything, and a lot of people are upset with the Democratic Party too. So it's not like it's we can't just paint with black and white. I'm just saying that there are issues that are nuanced, and that in this case, if you look at the common person and say, why are you voting Democratic, it's kind of these issues that are their top of mind. Just as Republicans will say, this is why they vote Republican. And a lot of them honestly vote because they're one topic or one issue. Candidates, their issue is abortion. That is why they're Republican. And people will vote Republican because they
no, I mean, I know. Here's I don't think. See, Republicans aren't really a lot. I mean, they're a single issue. Republicans are. We've got three big issues: national security, family values, tax cuts.
I'm not talking about the GOP. I'm talking about individual voters. I'm saying there are a lot of individual voters.
It's like it's kind of like whatever brings you to the dinner table.
There's single issue voters on both sides, all the way around. Yeah. I mean, there are people who are driven from whatever political party they're affiliated with by a single issue. I mean, we've been around long enough to see that. So that's going to
Yeah.
happen. What the Supreme Court decision on Dobbs and in essence, and also then Roe v. Wade really is that will drive the single issue voters on the liberal left. Maybe it may help them in the polls. I just don't think it's going to help them enough to turn things around. Democrats are mired in problems because of the economy, and I think that's still going to be the trump card here. Is that people are going to look at that more than that. I don't think there are enough people on either the right or the left that are so single issue on abortion that it makes a huge bit of difference, in elections in general, to sway one way or the other, to sway the Republicans into power or to push the Democrats into power. I think the Democrats that are hoping that it's something they can play on, I think they're going to be sadly disappointed, except maybe in a few areas. I mean, we're starting to see some primaries come up that are now, post this decision, but I'm not sure that's going to change much. I mean, the Democrats in these primaries, they're suffering from a turnout problem. Turnouts in primaries are never great, but the turnout for the Republicans has been much better than for the Democrats in the primaries, also not boding well for the Democrats in the fall. The LA Times reported that over 1 million people, which really shocked me, have switched their party registration from Democrat to Republican. I'm thinking, like, why?
Yeah.
To be honest, but that should worry Democratic strategists too. That's not supposed to happen. We would love to see a wave, right, Dwight, of having Democrats switch their registration to Republican in Montgomery County instead of seeing this.
And then we might be over 100,000 registered Republicans again.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost almost 25% of the Republicans, right? In the last,
when you and I got on the committee, we had over 40,000 registered Republicans. We're now probably around like 95,000. 95,000.
And for years we touted in our fundraising, right, 125,000 strong.
Yeah, and we lost since 2016 January. Around January we were like 114. And now we're at 95,000. Somebody may have been sleeping behind the wheel. I don't know. But we've had an exodus from the Republican Party in Montgomery County. Maybe it's the Republicans that want to go vote for David Blair. I will say that
some of that is Donald Trump.
Yeah, it is. That, and also you have some Republicans that have been telling other Republicans, "Oh, go register as a Democrat so you could go vote for David Blair." Because David Blair is the least damaging Democrat running for something. David Blair is just as woke and just as bad as Mark Elrick, frankly. He is for Thrive. He supports no SROs. He is for, he's a big government, Mark Elrick style Democrat, So it's not, it's like you're getting any better. So, unfortunately, it is what it is, it's Montgomery County.
Yeah, so Dwight, you mentioned Biden's low poll numbers. I mean, that's what I think. We had that Real Clear Politics. So Real Clear Politics, they look at a bunch of polls and they average them out. So that way to help try to offset any potential skews one way or the other. 38%. I mean, this is Donald Trump territory. Trump's approval ratings were never very good. Large part really not really because of his policies, but because of his personality. In the way that he ran things. But there was also another poll that Harvard, CAPS, and YouGov or something, I think it was a conjunction with that, they did, and 71% of the people polled there don't want Biden to run again in 2024. And Kamala Harris, she kind of stepped into it the other day, talking about about Biden running in 2024, and she had to try to clarify her remarks. I've noticed with Harris lately that she comes out and she gives these statements, but the statements are just kind of a circular thing. She basically repeats the same word, and you're like, what did she just say? I don't. This administration's got problems, and it's problems for the Democrats nationally because they've got a president and vice president who are just terrible.
Yeah, and it's like, and then Hillary walked back her that she's going to run for president. Now she says, "Well, if Joe Biden's going to run, I'm not running." Yeah.
I mean, Juan Williams wrote a column. He thinks that could be the savior for the party in 2024.
My
You know?
God, Juan Williams is one annoying guy. He is so annoying.
And Hillary did an interview where she's just like, she doesn't think the media is doing their job, because they're not going after the Republicans enough, kind of thing. Basically, doesn't want them to focus on all the problems the Democrats have. So, well, there's all these problems with the Republicans and Donald Trump, and the media's not really talking enough about that. And like, I think they're talking plenty about that. They're not talking about Hunter Biden, as Dwight had mentioned earlier in the show.
Hunter Biden, with his laptop. But how's his art career going, by the way? How's his painting sale? What's he doing? Selling light brights or Etch a Sketch?
Well, either it's the less the Bidens talk about Hunter, the better for them. Which is kind of funny. I mean, usually, no matter what age they are, usually the children of the presidents, they get a lot of time. I mean, even relatives. I remember, Carter's
Billy
brother.
Bush. Billy Carter.
Yeah, he got quite a bit of attention. Not all that Carter's would have wanted, but that's the way it goes.
Roger Clinton.
Did he have a Billy Bear? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
So but you're not hearing a lot about Hunter Biden, because if you mention Hunter Biden, then you've actually got to talk about these problems that will be extremely damaging, and just show how the media colluded in 2020 to make sure that Joe Biden became the president of the United States.
Yep. And they don't seem to get that,
But yeah.
And I tell you, it's gonna be a fun election cycle, frankly. It's gonna be fun, frankly. We're gonna see.
I'm just curious to see how the turnout's going to be. I think the Democrats will be out a little bit stronger, but not as strong as you'd expect, because again, I think there's a lot. As much as there is resentment, there's also, there's both against the Supreme Court decision. There's also resentment against the own party. So I don't think it's going to be as strong. I think, Don, to your point, I don't think it's going to be as strong as it could be.
And it's a midterm election, so so the turnout's already going to be, generally will be down anyway across the board. But if the Democrats, if they're losing voter registration, they get these ominous things. The Maya Flores win in Texas is a kind of a big deal, but her chances of winning, she's going to have an uphill battle because she'll be running on the new map and not the old map she won, and that's going to be much tougher. But the Democrats are extreme. There are a lot of places that are extremely vulnerable, in places that Biden won, especially basically, anything that's within a D plus, that's still rated a D plus, say 7 or so.
Yep.
Those are going to be very dangerous seats for the Democrats, because that's just not a big enough margin for them to feel that they're going to be able to win that outright. There could be a lot of dogfights, and it could be really, really ugly. The Democrats, the best case scenario for them is that, they know they're going to lose. I think the best case scenario is they come out of that thing and they lose only 25 seats. That would be a victory for them, instead of 50.
Yeah, but you and I both know they're going to lose more than 25 seats.
The chances are they are going to lose more than that, because redistricting is already going to give them a pretty big edge. And here we are in July. We're now about 4 months away from the election, and the economy's not getting any better. There's a lot of talk about a recession. Joe Biden says, well, a recession is not inevitable. Instead of saying, there will not be a recession, or I'm doing everything I can to prevent a recession, or try to bolster consumer confidence. He's like, it's not inevitable. What is that?
Yeah, it's these people. They're a little humorous,
Are the administration feeling burned after they talked about transitory inflation? Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen and Biden, they're all talking about, oh, inflation is going to be transitory. This is not, and here we are, months and months later, and it's still going full bore. And they finally, Janet Yellen and everybody started to back off, saying, okay, it's not transitory anymore, but it will get better. But no, they don't know when, because
But it's going to take as long as it takes, though. That's what Joe Biden said today. It'll take as long as it takes.
Right. And, going back to what Jeff said earlier about transportation costs, I mean, if gas prices continue to remain stubbornly high, this is going to be a continuing problem. They're going to have a hard time tamping down inflation because the transportation costs are still there. And, you're looking around. I mean, yeah, we went to Panda Express the other day for dinner because one of my kids had given us a gift card, I guess, for my
Hey,
wife's birthday.
speaking of Panda Express, Don, did you know that one of the family members of the owners of Panda Express is at every location? Every Panda Express, the owners of the family, because they're not a franchise, they're all owned by Panda Express.
Family owned, yeah, it's a privately held family owned company.
Yeah, and there's a family member at every single Panda Express, kind of like Wegmans, where they got a Wegmans family member at every Wegmans store. Next time you go to Panda Express, ask, hey, can I see one of the Panda Express owners that are here?
I kind of
go back to the store.
I kind of have hard to imagine that that person would be there for like 10 hours a day, but whatever.
The video I saw, they actually spend a lot of time there, according to the video. I saw.
But my general point is just that inflation on the wage front, because so they have like a lot of places a sign in the window. So now if you're going to be like the line cook or whatever, you're going to be just a regular worker. The wages are now starting at $15. If you want to be a manager, that's $20 an hour. And then if you want to be like the general manager or whatever, which would be that'd be a lot of work. It's $68,000 a year plus benefits. That's a lot of money in a fast food industry.
Yes.
And which means prices have got to go up, and you kind of we have to worry about stagflation of wages and inflation pushing prices up. We've got a lot of things that we're not exactly quite sure where the heck we're going. I just keep thinking, is this deja vu, as Yogi Bear's all over again? Am I reliving, my 20s now here with all of this? What the heck's going on here? I'm trying to ease into retirement, and I'm like, holy cow! It's like, on a real dollar basis, my assets are being eaten away by inflation.
Oh, and not to be the harbinger of even bad news. Studies, there's some analysts that are saying that people are going to be going through their savings by mid-October. People's savings will have dried up, so people will be turning to loans and stuff like that. I mean, we're seeing this stuff happening. Okay, let me tell you. Used cars, there's a bubble forming there just because there's a lot. I had no idea. I was doing some research for an article I'm working on, but there's a lot of subprime lenders that you can charge like 22%, 21% interest for loans for cars, and I'm like, I need to get into this business, but it's very risky. It's not for the faint of heart, so to speak.
You should have gone into crypto, Dwight.
No. Crypto is going to go the way of the Belgium and the tulip bulb.
So this is why I want. That's why we have to get Jason back. Wasn't Jason the big crypto guy?
Yes, he was the Dogecoin millionaire.
Mr. Dogecoin of the Republican Party, right?
Yeah, that's how he could afford his palatial estates in Anne Arundel County. Champagne dreams and caviar wishes,
Well, yeah, and look how well the crypto thing is working out for.
I heard he donates his entire salary as a state employee, as a MDGOV employee to charity because he just makes so much money as in Dogecoin. Just kidding.
Well, I want to know if Mayor Adams in New York still going to take part of his salary in Bitcoin, and then when we get the next quarterly results from Tesla, we'll see how much they got hurt by the drop in Bitcoin because they put a lot of money into Bitcoin as part of their treasury. And that was fine when Bitcoin was 40 to 50,000, but at under 20,000, they're going to get killed on that, and they have $5
billion they invested in that.
What's that?
I think was it $5 billion they invested in Bitcoin,
something like that. And then it's what's the other company, Michael? There's a tech company.
Coinbase.
You
mean Coinbase or is?
No. There's a tech company that actually put a lot of money into Bitcoin for their treasury, and they even borrowed money to buy Bitcoin for their corporate treasury.
Oh, I
And,
know who you're talking about. I'm trying to think of the name. I know who
and
you're
they're get
talking
and they're
about.
and they're getting killed as a result of that. Um, they
I mean,
actually may
you know,
they actually may get margin calls on that, because I think when Bitcoin hits around 20,000, they actually have to start forking over more money that they may not have.
and then you've got the other crypto, Ethereum, which is now that's pretty much a lot of people invested a lot of money in mining Ethereum with buying very expensive cards, and I understand that's also kind of the bottom's falling out of Ethereum. Is that the other crypto? Is it Ethereum? Or?
It's it's you said it so many times now you got off my mind, but it's Ethereum is the
Ethereum. There you go.
It's not. Yeah, it's Ethereum is what he is. But anyway,
Ethereum is what the Draconian Empire.
I have so much faith in Dwight.
Here's an answer from Wikipedia.
Yeah, Dwight, I have so much faith in you. I thought maybe you had the right pronunciation, and I've been pronouncing it wrong all this time.
No. I mean, but you know what Ethereum is? There's an episode of Buck Rogers where the Draconian Empire was illegally mining a planet of Ethereum. And Princess Ardella, it was one of her plans to trap Buck Rogers into marrying her. Great series, brother. Great series.
Well, anyway, I'm just glad to see that it's dropped in stock value, just if nothing else, because all the crypto miners taking up resources in terms of the actual GPUs and other types of equipment. We already had a chip shortage, and then and Bitcoin is already past its prime, but Ethereum is still being hash mined by GPUs. So the fact that the market is kind of, I don't know, normalizing whatever, I think that's probably good too for just the consumer market, because a lot of consumables have just been over the top expensive. And I was going to say, we kind of following up what Don was saying about the inflation stuff. So I mean, we've always had a wage gap. If you looked, I forget what report it was, but you've heard that if you rent a place, it should be 1/3 of your income. There's been such an increase in housing costs that almost no place now is that 1/3 ratio. It's now 40%, almost 50% sometimes of your income, and so there's that problem. And then in terms of obviously we're seeing a lot of the lower end temporary staff, the part-timers, being hired in at a larger starting salary, because right now you need to attract the kind of workers. But the salaried people, the people that that have been there for a while, they're not getting an equivalent raise in salary. So there really is this whole buckling effect where it's kind of the top end doesn't really move, but the bottom end kind of shuffles around, and it's between that and the people that have recently bought homes and now they have been paying extra for gas and for food and everything. And then the fact that with inflation, especially if we start dumping money into the economy, it's going to devalue the dollar, and then at that point it's going to that's kind of where the brakes kind of fail in my estimation. So hopefully the Treasury Department has some good sense. They're not going to try to just help the economy by printing more money, because I think that'd be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But again,
we'll go back to the days, Jeff, when we were in high school or slightly before high school, where you get 22% interest and stuff like that at the banks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we had SL problems back then. There's always been issues.
Remember the great American institution that would stand the test of time, called savings and loans? Do you guys remember those at all?
Of course, that's it was before the whole FDIC thing, because I'm surprised you didn't mention it, but the Clintons kind of got their
Resolution Trust Corporation, Resolution Trust Corporation, Silverado Savings and Loan,
So
right.
But what are next tradings now?
So Tesla invested $1.5 billion in Bitcoin.
So it wasn't 5 million, it was 1.5. Okay.
1.5, and they've lost 500 million of that investment now.
Wow.
So don't follow Elon Musk's investment strategy.
You know, here's the investing should be like what I do. I invest in rock bed solid companies. You know, I do Home Depot, I've got Tesla, I've got I don't chase the fads. I've got Coca-Cola because I drink Coca-Cola. I used to buy Dell computers. I got Dell stocks, and it does well. I got Merck stock. I've got like you can't don't chase streams. You want a steady growth. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not at the stock market is not a casino where you can roll the dice, and be a day trader. The 1980s are over. Ivan Boesky is gone. It's not the Wolves of Wall Street have been reformed. Now we should call them the puppies of Wall Street.
Well, you can be a day trader. You can trade in options. You just got to know.
You can. But my point is, I would not put bulk of my investments in day trading. I mean, I do. I've got some high risk stuff too. I do high risk, but I put like about 7. I got a 60% in bedrock. Good companies that I know are going to be there tomorrow, like ExxonMobil and Marathon and stuff like that. I know they're going to be around. Then I got some other areas where it's like kind of like I feel like I'm at a casino just rolling, let it ride, black.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, if you're gonna do the high risk investment, you just got to be, prepared to move quickly.
The problem is too many people they do 80-20. 80% of it goes to the high risk and 20% goes into safe.
Well, when you're a young investor, that probably makes more sense. But as you get older and you start, you need to know, rebalance your portfolio. But this is not.
I'm almost at half a century mark. July marks the beginning of the Dwight Patel Jubilee year. Of celebrating Dwight at 50. Dwight 50. And. But we are in extra innings, by the way, Don. Just letting you know.
I know. I was gonna say that, Dwight. It's probably time to kind of wrap this thing
before we go to final thoughts, I got one thing. It's the public service announcement, and our friends in Frederick County, they've got a great Lincoln Reagan Day dinner speaker, and their speaker is Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado. She is, a firecracker. And tickets are only $100. Only $100. That is what? A tank of gas? Come on out to Walkersville. Buy a ticket. Buy a table. If you're a candidate, my recommendation, if you're a candidate, hint, candidates, buy a table. It's very affordable. I think tables are a low price of, let's see, $1,000. That's 10 tanks of gas. But definitely come on out, support Frederick County, support the good people over there like Michael Hoff, Joey Lynn Hoff, Barry Celebrity, Jesse Pippi. Support Frederick County. Come on out. I mean they are a county we need to keep red and make sure they're around. They have Republicans there and they get a Republican county executive. So come on out. It's on the 13th. Go to their website. Why do you use these bit.ly things, Joey Lynn? I'm sorry, but it should go. Their website is frederickgop.org. This is their website. Go there, click over here. What do they say? Oh, right here, Lincoln Reagan Dinner. Click there, and you can go buy your tickets. That concludes our portion of the PSA.
Good for you, Dwight.
Yeah. And also, you'll meet the doctors there. You'll have Dr. Jeff and I will be there. I don't know if Dr. Irvine is going to be joining us. It does start at 5 o'clock, so it is over. It does end relatively quickly, So if you'd like to join us, so you can see all 3 of the doctors. Then our auxiliary doctors will be there as well. A few of them will be there. So you come on out, get your picture taken, not only with the Congress, but also with the doctors if you'd like. So, yeah. Now we're on to, final thoughts. Or do we have any more you want to cover, Don?
No, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Okay, final thoughts. Don Irvine, go.
Okay, so technology-wise, the iPhone is now 15 years old. I can't say I was there
Happy
at the
birthday.
yeah, I can't say I bought the first one. I think my first one was a 4 or 3 or 4 something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's when I
So,
got into the iPhones too.
so I waited a while, but make sure it was something that was going to keep going. But now I'm all in on the Apple ecosystem, and I don't think I can ever turn back. And uh, I'm a late comer to the Apple Watch, but now I'm sold on that. So I love the integration of the watch and the phone. So Apple, brilliant
My first
corporation for
iPhone,
marketing. Got to give them credit for that.
That's the
and this
four.
is the latest. Look at that.
What are we looking at? So yeah.
See, I've
So,
got my 2 iPhones. The first one and the last one.
okay.
Yeah, I have an early model with that with the rounded bottom. You know,
Yeah, I know. It's like, look at this. It's like, it almost feels like a toy, you know? It's like, I don't know if you guys ever looked at the old G.I. Joes and Star Wars action figures now. You know, they're like tiny. It's like, wow. You know, when you're a kid, everything's, kid
Yeah,
size,
yeah. When they miniaturize those things, I'm like, what the heck are they doing?
Yeah. But do you remember the fad before the iPhone was making phones even smaller and smaller?
so
So
what I
there
remember,
are a lot of people who still love flip phones out there. So and
That's
who
because they want to play Star Trek.
well, you had so many different brands of phones back then. You know, you had Motorola, you had Nikon. Sorry, Nikon. I'm sorry,
Nokia.
Nokia. Thanks.
yeah.
And then you had other brands too. And the thing too is that you always had these phones that would carry a lot, not just with the service, but with the features too. So the big thing that was the breakthrough that Apple brought was the fact that back then it was just you had to get an AT&T service plan, but AT&T went with Apple, and they basically said, we will let Apple choose what apps you can install. We're not going to force our own apps on the phone because every other carrier, part of that point, it was their apps on the phone. You couldn't choose what apps you wanted. It was if you went with Verizon, you had Verizon apps. Whatever. It was a very locked ecosystem, and Apple came along and said we're going to have this open system where we can, you play music, you can download your own apps. It was just, back at the time it was unheard of. And Don, to your point, yeah, nobody was really sure if it was going to work or not because it was so radical. Microsoft had a kind of their own kind of phone, but it was really not a great phone. So yeah, it was just amazing that Apple went with
I
it.
think Microsoft did a really good marketing. They tried to market their phone a lot. And they went through a lot of trouble for their phone.
Remember Amazon having a phone, the Fire phone or whatever.
I do.
Remember that.
And I don't know if you guys remember, somebody had a
didn't last
stainless
very long
steel
at
phone.
all.
And they also had they had a stainless steel phone, which I thought was kind of cool. I'm surprised Apple has not made a stainless steel replacement as well. Like a stainless steel version of the phone. Because I think, don't they have a gold-plated iPhone you get for $15,000, something like that?
They had a watch that looks like that, but I don't know about
Oh, watch, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Apple is a money machine. They put out the new product, and it's pretty amazing what they can do with all that stuff. And give them credit for that. The only other thing I was going to say too is that we talked a little bit earlier about some of the court cases. So I was a little surprised at this, that the court actually voted to allow the Biden administration to reverse the remain in Mexico policy. I mean, Joe Biden's open borders plan is now going to be in full effect, but it's like he has no clue what they're going to do with the border. I mean, he's like a lot of other things. It's like, well, this is a disaster waiting to happen, and I don't know what we're if you're the governor of Texas and some of these other border states, you're like, oh, this is not good news for them, because they're the ones that are going to have to wind up dealing with a lot of these issues that have gotten worse and worse since Biden took office to begin with. So anyway. That's it for me.
Okay. Final thoughts, Jeff Thornton.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I don't really have too many final thoughts, other than the fact that Don, you'd mentioned about all of the gas prices and the taxes for it. I don't know what they are in the southern states, but I can tell you when I was down in South Carolina, um, I wasn't. Was it probably last weekend? I paid $4.28 a gallon down there, and this is
Woohoo,
when
that's a bargain.
that's when prices in Maryland were $5.28. So it was a full dollar cheaper down there. And I mean, obviously, I went to a cheap place, went to Sam's Club to get gas, which is cheaper anyway. But yeah, it was just a remarkable difference, and it's just interesting. I mean, I've said before that the reason that one of the main reasons I'm a Republican is because I believe in helping people and not taking from people. And with Republican states, you typically, you don't tax, the consumption of things. You tax when people are profitable. You tax, the businesses. You tax, income, those things. But you don't have high property taxes. You don't have high gas taxes. You don't tax those kind of issues. Those are like, but for Democrats, it seems like those are the low lying things that are easy to get money because it's not really accounted for. And the issue I have with like even places like Baltimore, I mean, I love Baltimore, places of it, but when you start taxing the houses so much that you've got 4% tax for the housing, it's like you lose so much of your equity in your home just in taxes. So you're paying the same amount per month, but it's not. But that money is not going to your house. A lot of it's going to the government, and you'd assume with that much money going to the government that have better social programs and better, police, better fire departments, but they don't. So it's those kind of issues that for me, those are the things that the pain points. And I think, again, I'm curious to see what the elections are going to be. But I think because people are really being hit in the pocketbook, it's like, what matters more, like your heart or your pocketbook. So I think people are going to be voting, with the money, so to speak, because I think that, whether or not you believe that this is fully Biden's fault, there are things Biden could do to ease the situation we're in. I realize that part of it is due to Russia, but part of it is also due to our own policies. And I think we were kind of short-sighted. And while I believe in using renewables where it makes sense, we're not to the point where we can just switch off using gas. And, trying to have a policy where, we try to be too restrictive in that, it just ends up hurting everyone. And I think that's kind of what people are saying. So, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts, I suppose.
So I looked up the gas tax in South Carolina while you were talking. So it just went up from 26 cents to 28 cents today.
Okay.
Wow, that's even still lower than our tax was yesterday.
Yes.
A lot lower too.
How the roads in South Carolina still pretty decent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, except I-85, they're doing construction on there. That's terrible.
There's always construction on
Like,
I-85.
the roads themselves are fine. It's just
There's an area right around Raleigh where, for the longest time, like when Don and I would go down to Civitas and the North Carolina State Party Convention. But next year, Don, we're going down there we're going back to Civitas and the State.
it's probably like
Party
I-40 you're talking about.
We shall return.
No, this is 85 when you take I-85 up, because I-85 goes right into Raleigh. 40 is the cross between 95 and the Raleigh Beltway.
40 goes east-west. It goes from Raleigh to Durham down to Charlotte.
Yeah, but when you come down 85, like right before Raleigh, there's a section where it's a one-lane road. It's probably been fixed by now because it's been a few years since we've been down there.
Yeah, I don't. It must have been really short because I don't recall it being there. But as soon as you cross the border from North Carolina to South Carolina on I-85, it's a big difference. I mean, at least for a couple of years, I-85 has just been a terrible mess. So it's like take it in rush hour, and it's like it takes you an hour to get through there because it's really, really bad.
Yeah, try getting through that area around Charlotte. That's a mess too. And
but so is Richmond too. I mean, if you're taking that, during rush hour.
I take the horseshoe bypass actually, which I like. I like taking that horseshoe bypass. It's actually quicker. There's less traffic. I know it adds a couple miles to the trip, but I really like going over that bridge they have there in Henrico County there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's good good deals and good things happening, so to speak. But any other thoughts, Jeff?
No, I think that's all I got. Thanks. Ian.
Okay. My final thoughts: a couple of things. If you guys don't like the gas prices, the gas tax, thank a Democrat. Let me just say, this November, vote Republican for a change. The Democrats have controlled Montgomery County for the past 16 years. Has things gotten that much better in 16 years? Other than your taxes going up, services going down, and basically homicides are up 88%, and carjackings are up 72%. If you like that, continue, vote Democrat. If you want real change, vote Republican, do I tell, for county council. And vote for all the Republicans. That's my political commercial. My other final thought is, I don't know about you guys, but have you noticed that a lot of our favorite restaurants are closing down and there's not new stuff? But the biggest outrage I've got is there's a pizza place that's this morning, Don had it on his Facebook. It was like the 50 best pizza places in America. And this list had only one Montgomery County location. I think it must be the only one in Maryland, too, right? I don't think they had anything else in Maryland.
I think
But
that's right. Yeah.
these people are flawed. They didn't have Stained Glass Pub on that list or Armand's on that list. Which is, what's the matter with you people? Armand's is great.
What's the
Stained
matter,
Glass Pub. Stained Glass Pub is like the best pizza in Maryland. Even skeptics like Dr. Trott likes Stained Glass Pub. And it's real Maryland style pizza. And you know what Maryland style pizza is? It's square. Because we don't cut corners in Maryland. Except if you're a Democrat. But that is my other final thought. Had another great coffee with Dwight this morning. Spoke to folks over at this diner out in Gaithersburg, which I've been told not to mention their names, so I'm not going to. But met with some really nice people, the owners, and everyone's concern is inflation is on the top of everyone's mind. The owners were telling me how they had to raise their price on pancakes and bacon. They're saying they're actually seeing incidents of dash and dines where people come in, order food, they'll bolt out without paying. And they're seeing, and it's all because of inflation and Joe Biden and the Democrats, frankly. And we need real change. So that's our final thoughts. Dash and dines are increasing also in Montgomery County because of inflation. Good night, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. Take care, guys.
All right. See ya.
See you.